That's going to encompass river cruising, right? We started almost 30 years ago as a river cruise line, sailing on the waterways there of Russia, and then also moving quickly into the waterways of Europe. So we're proud to say we sail on all 7 continents at this point with our river, our ocean, and our expedition reach. So we're on 5 oceans, we're on 21 rivers, the 20th river being the mighty Mississippi here closer to home here in the U.S., and the 21st river will come here shortly. And actually, in just about less than a year, we'll be sailing in India with a cruise land tour, and that'll be our 21st river. And so again, with our expedition reach, sailing from the continent of South America all the way to the peninsula of Antarctica, we are sailing to all 7 continents, which is really, really fun. We are one Viking, so it's one team here at Viking. It's a seamless opportunity for you to kind of, I guess, see what small ship experience is all about. Folks that take a small ship experience come back within 1 to 3 years, and they're extremely happy. And for anybody that will listen to you, you'll tell them all about it, which is great. And at Viking, we've continuously been named number 1 on the river side, number 1 on the ocean side, again, with Condé Nast and Travel and Leisures, right? So we really thank our readers of Condé Nast and Travel and Leisure, because we continue to kind of make waves there and already making headway on the expedition side of the things. So we do feel that we're the small ship experts. As I mentioned, we did start almost 30 years ago on the river. So we bring over more than 2 decades of expertise. It's all about less time getting there and more time spent in the port of call. So for those of you that have never experienced the small ship experience, that truly is the, I guess, really the main focal point of intentional travel, more time spent within the destination, having something included for you on a daily basis, but then having a fair share amount of free time in the afternoon, right? Typically, that's one of your, very generic ways to break out an itinerary. The shortest cruise we offer at Viking is 8 days, 7 nights. And then we go all the way up to some of our world cruises that are 130 days plus. So again, you can spend as little as 8 days, 7 nights with us, or even sometimes up to half a year with some of our world cruises. So our focus is to really bring you into the heart of the destination, completely immerse you into the cultural enrichment and the destination from a focal point of local life, working world, or even privileged access. So at Viking, again, we love to say that we are a thinking person's cruise. We're exploring the world in comfort and very much focused on, again, having you experience your journey in the eyes and in the way that you would like to, again, go through that itinerary, whether you are inclined musically or you're into World War II history, you're very much into historical relevance. Maybe you're into food, wine. Maybe you are a very balanced individual where you like to maybe sometimes visit a museum or take an architecture tour or excursion, and then also delve into the food and wine aspect. So we really give you that cultural enrichment, and it kind of carries over to onshore and also on board with regard to hands-on demonstrations. Everything we do with regard to Viking has to do where we're sailing in the world. So remember, with small ship experiences, specifically Viking, we typically overnight at embarkation and overnight at disembarkation. We say that because for those of you that have done a lot of ocean cruising in the past, you may have come into, name a city, and you're leaving either that day, you're not overnighting, you're not really getting to experience the local life in the evening. Specifically with river cruising, we sail through the wee hours of the evening. So you really get a chance, even after dinner, to step off the ship, kind of explore on your own, see the nightlife, have a nightcap, maybe even enjoy dinner ashore. So, and have the ability to kind of see what locals do in the evening and experience the maximum amount of time within that destination. So My flagship itinerary by far is the Grand European Tour on the river, right? So we go from Amsterdam to Budapest, Budapest to Amsterdam. I have a sister ship concept. So if I have a ship leaving Amsterdam, on that same day, I have a ship leaving Budapest, and they're going to cross somewhere within the itinerary. But this is very much my iconic Rhine, Main, Danube, and Danube itinerary. Again, Amsterdam to Budapest or vice versa. You're talking about the Delta waterways, iconic cities like Amsterdam with all the world-renowned museums, whether it's the Anne Frank House, the Rembrandt House, of course, the Rijksmuseum went under its 10-year renovation. It's been open now for about 4, almost 5 seasons now in all of its glory, housing all the Dutch masters. But yeah, into the Delta waterways, flowing into the Rhine, again, rolling castles, finally making our way into the Main and Danube Canal, and then some just historical relevant small local village and towns that you're not going to be able to see or experience unless you're doing a lot of self-driving or a lot of, again, packing and unpacking more than once and doing your land motor coach experience. So we'll flow onto the Danube, sail through one of my favorite parts of the world, which is the Wachau Valley, the terrace vineyards, finally making our way into Vienna. The nice thing about this itinerary is we do overnight in Vienna. So we have almost 2 full days in Vienna to experience that wonderful city, whether, again, you are maybe someone that is inclined by architecture, you are inclined by the arts, museums galore. Maybe you just have a shopping addiction like my wife. So, probably shouldn't have been recording and said that, but okay. Budapest,
and the museums in Vienna are just amazing.
And you get to see both sides of the city with Viking. We typically dock on the Budapest side, on the Pest side of Budapest. You get to see Buda, go into the old castle district, Fisherman's Bastions, Matthias Church, and then also see that old world, new world complexion. I think, there's really not a body of water other than maybe like the city of Turkey, where you have, 2 continents, maybe not as drastic of the case in Budapest, but you really do have that old world feeling in Buda. And then where we're docked is right next to the chain bridge there on the Pest side, going into Hero Square and being able to experience the more, again, new world era of that city. But known as the Pearl of the Danube, we can start or end there, extensions galore, whether it's Amsterdam, whether it's Budapest, or Prague in the Czech Republic. And again, working with Malinda gives you the advantage of maybe there's something that you want to do, that you want to experience pre or post outside of the Viking program. So she's able to put that together for you, make recommendations, and giving you some insightful tips and travel knowledge with regard to how to experience the specific city that you're looking to enjoy. Romantic Danube, a little bit shorter of a version. Of course, this is your 8-day, 7-night itinerary from Regensburg to Budapest. So your traditional Danube cruise. We go in either direction, extensions in Munich, in Nuremberg, for those of you, again, that have a want for that historical relevance of World War II, Prague in the Czech Republic, pre or post based on date, and then Budapest, we can either start or end there. So again, 8 days, 7 nights on the Danube, probably my most popular 8-day, 7-night experience other than the Rhine getaway from Amsterdam to Basel or Basel to Amsterdam. One of my most popular cruise land experiences in Europe is going to be your Portugal's River of Gold. As a destination standpoint, Portugal is still in about the top 5, top 6 destinations in all of the world on its own. So we've made a collaborative effort to really experience Portugal and bring you not just the Douro River, but also bring you into Lisbon. We spend 2 nights there in a hotel, and then we motor coach up to Porto, where we'll embark on a Viking Douro vessel that is a little bit smaller than what you would have on the Rhine and Danube. It's about 160 guests, and then you sail 7 nights round trip on the Douro River, round trip Porto. So take that motor coach from Lisbon. We stop in a very neat, very cool university town of Coimbra, which is a big influence to the Harry Potter series, right? The children or the folks that are going to university at times are wearing those, those black, capes that you see in Harry Potter. There's a lot of historical relevance there. You don't have to be into Harry Potter at all to appreciate what Coimbra has to offer, but it is very much so one of the settings that was used for the books that eventually turned into the movies. But we stopped there to make the day a little bit, or that ride a little bit more comfortable. Then we continue on for Coimbra up to Porto, and then we'll board the ship, and then we'll sail round trip Porto. We can do Madrid as a pre-extension. We can also do more time in Lisbon pre, and then we can also do Santiago as a post-extension. So keep all of that in mind. This is a cruise land tour. What that means is that you already have hotel built into the experience. So again, those 2 nights in Lisbon already included, and then the 7 nights on the ship with regard to Portugal. So again, tremendous amount of historical relevance with regard to Portugal. I feel an undervalued food and wine destination. And I feel like as far as Europe is concerned, it's one of those countries that is stunning, over the top again from both of those aspects I've just mentioned. And then also just significantly, your euro is going to go a little bit further there, meaning your US dollar will go a little bit further there. Lyon and Provence, again, just a mecca for your Gallo-Roman ruins, your over-the-top food and wine experience. I'm talking about a Lyon to Avignon sailing. This is your traditional Rhone and Saône, Lyon and Provence itinerary. Again, we sail in either direction. This is 8 days, 7 nights. We can also do extensions in Paris, pre or post, or Nice along the French Riviera there, pre or post. But the traditional itinerary is, as you see it here, plenty of time to experience Lyon, and then wonderful, quaint, essential villages and towns in southern France. For those of you that maybe have been to northern France, let's say Paris, and it maybe wasn't your cup of tea, or maybe it wasn't your glass of champagne, so to say, you want to give France another chance. This is what we call the real France, southern France, your Rhone and the Saône, cities like Arles, Avignon, Tournon, and Viviers, just stunning at dusk. So again, take a closer look at that. That's 8 days, 7 nights. We can do either direction, and then we can also combine southern France with Paris in the heart of Normandy. So this was very popular a couple of years ago. It did extremely well with the big anniversary for D-Day, and also the if you watched any of the summer games, you would have seen where we are docked. We're docked about 500 yards from the Eiffel Tower. We're using our Seine class vessels. So again, purpose-built vessels for the Douro, just like on the Nile, and then again, purpose-built vessels for the Seine here as we embark and disembark in Paris. So we do overnight in Paris. We're in that friendly triangle, as I love to say it, because as you know, Paris is a lot like New York City or Buenos Aires, where you just have quite a bit of traffic. So it's nice to stay in that very central located.
That's pretty cool.
And you can kind of, again, you can somewhat, based on how much walking you want to do, you can definitely walk to the Eiffel Tower. You can make your way over to the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, right? Champs. It's all within striking distance and not having to spend 35, 45 minutes in traffic. The highlight, or one of the most notable things folks talk about, is our included tour and excursion up to the Normandy beaches. We have time to visit the D-Day Museum. We also visit the Normandy beaches. We go to Omaha, Golden Juno, and also the U.S. Military Cemetery. So again, you don't have to have you don't have to be inclined to experience a ton of World War II history or be a history buff to enjoy this itinerary. There's certainly a lot of other components to the itinerary, but it certainly is and can heavily focus on the Normandy beaches. But of course, you have Giverny, We go into the Monet Gardens based on the time of year, right? April through October. You can choose to walk through that. You can also choose to do a bike tour and experience that how you so choose to. But this is what the itinerary looks like. This gives you a good idea of where we dock with our vessels. And again, that's about 160 guests on that Seine class itinerary, on those Seine class vessels on the Paris and the Heart of Normandy itinerary. Again, 8 days, 7 nights. We can combine this with the Southern France and make a 2-week experience. Do 7 nights up north and then 7 nights on the Rhone and the Saône. So, had to show you pharaohs and pyramids. I have to. I know it may seem kind of odd, but it remains. Over the last 2 years, this has been our highest reviewed river cruise, and it hasn't even been close. So, pharaohs and pyramids, 12 days. Egypt remains extremely safe. Tourism police. It's fully guided with an Egyptologist. So it's just not just like a local guide. This is your fully guided Egyptologist that is with you the entire time. So the time that you're in Cairo, and then they also board the vessel with you. So they are living there on the ship with you, just like our resident historians and guest lecturers on our ocean product. So this is 12 days. This is a cruise land tour. You have hotel experiences already built into Cairo before and after the itinerary. I do recommend you take advantage of a pre-extension here. We're offering one in Cairo. Of course, the big highlight is the new museum opening up on all of its glory. It is open. You could spend probably 2 full days there, just like you could with the Louvre, right? So that's open. But again, if you get there the next day, right, day 1, you're up and at 'em trying to, that's your overnight, and you typically arrive in the evening, and then day 2, you're in Cairo and exploring. So if you wanted to kind of, spend more time in the museum and have that ability to really, move at your own pace and have more time and some of the other highlights of Cairo, certainly recommend a pre-extension. It's a long way to go. I would say 8 to almost 9 times out of 10 that folks do the pharaohs and pyramids, they do some sort of extension beforehand, whether it's with Viking or not. We also are offering Istanbul as an extension, just to get you in the same time zone area, right? And then we also offer Cairo, and then as a post extension, we offer Jordan. So this is what the itinerary looks like. It is, again, a cruise land tour. You do have some intra-Egypt air. So you start in Cairo, fly down to Luxor, sail round trip Luxor, and then fly back to Cairo for your flight home, or maybe over to, again, Amman, so we can go to Jordan, right? So, and see Petra and all that great stuff. You see Israel, it's on the map. We used to do it as a pre-extension. It's still currently paused. I don't have an ETA on that. So, it was our most popular extension with regard to this itinerary, but we're currently not visiting Israel at this time. So again, pre in Cairo, pre in Istanbul, post in Jordan, and we are still doing our 12-day itinerary in Egypt. So let me switch gears very quickly here. I know Malinda wants to keep this to a reasonable time frame, so I'm going to move kind of quick here, but I wanted to show you ocean. These are ships that are all sister ships. They were built for discovery. These are in that small ship classification. They're under 1,000 guests, and it's an all veranda vessel. So if you're not familiar with Viking, we're very much known for our Scandinavian decor with a touch of Norwegian folkloric decor. Everything on board is understated elegance. Remember, we don't cater to anyone under the age of 18. That's across the product line. So no one under the age of 18, right? So if there's someone running down the hallways at 4 a.m., they're the same age as you. And, you can't blame it on the kids. There's no art auctions. There's no photographers. There's no casinos on board. It's very much a tranquil, very comfortable, inviting of conversation and tranquility. And the comfort level throughout again, these are ships that are 48,000 tons, but the maximum capacity is under 1,000 guests. So it really lends itself to gathering, still having your fair share amount of common and public space. You have your beautiful 2-story glassed encased explorers lounge. This becomes your piano bar type atmosphere in the evening. Great place to grab maybe a cocktail or listen to our chamber group, pianist, vocalist, our guitarist, right? It does become a piano bar type atmosphere in the evenings after dinner. And then you have a little tucked away lounge, library, great vantage point to say hello or goodbye to that destination. So that's your Explorers Lounge. One of my favorite spaces on the ocean vessel is our winter garden. I think very well done. We do a formal tea time every day at 4 p.m. We have a tea sommelier. Again, none of this is something that you have to reserve or book before. You have access to the winter garden. You have access to tea time. We do fresh scones, finger sandwiches, some international teas. Again, if you don't like tea, you can bring your coffee in. You can bring your adult beverage in. All good. It's just a space to gather. Again, promoting the tea time, promoting what that looks and feels like. And then typically serenaded by our resident chamber group on board. Main pool is adjacent to the winter garden. As you see here in this image, it's closed off right now, meaning the roof is retractable, weather permitting. We can roll that back, let some more sun in, some more temperature in, or you can close it and then regulate the temperature. So when we sail in some other maybe cooler parts of the year, in some other cooler destinations. So that's your main pool. Again, it is an all veranda stateroom ship, so your minimum is at least 270 square feet with a U.S. king size bed. I think where we really start to differentiate ourselves at Viking is the fine art of detail. It's the detail that and the thought that we put into a lot of different things. You know, even the tiniest conversations are sometimes can be argumentative, whether best terminology for it is it can sometimes become a very heated discussion on what we want to do and what we don't want to do. But ultimately, I'll share some of those with you because they may seem very elementary, but it's at the heart of what we do. So it's unreasonable hospitality. It's anticipating your needs before you get on the vessel. It's working with our travel partners like Malinda to really deliver that Viking standard. This is my favorite cabin on the ocean vessels, the Penthouse Junior Suite. It's not a true 2-room suite. We do have true 2-room capabilities, but the Penthouse Junior Suite is not that. It gives you some room for some privacy, gives you entertainment space for 4. Remember, it's an all veranda vessel, so every single cabin, even your minimum cabins, have a full sit-down veranda for 2. This just happens to have a little bit more entertainment space for 4, as you see, and then you have the veranda for 2. And then I think where you really see the biggest factor here is your double sinks, right? So you have her and her sinks, what we like to call double vanities, heated floors in all cabin categories. And then you can't see it here, but the toiletry products, you know, we really pride ourselves in, again, the fine art of details where we color code our toiletry products. We make them easy to open, and we make them readable without having to wear your readers in the shower. So make no mistake, we speak to an active 50-plus-year-old that does not want to have to try to read size 6 cursive font on a bottle that they can't open. And I don't know about you all, but I don't think anybody, goes and takes a shower with their readers on. So, but it's like the square backs in the dining room for folks to hang their, coats or purses. It's the square trash cans, so they push against flat surfaces and, things don't fall behind it. So it is not just, again, it's understated elegance and it's a luxurious product. You'll never find that it's an opulent setting, but because it is very much a resort casual environment, right? So we don't require you to have any sort of formal nights for dinner. Gentlemen can really get away with a collared shirt and and long pants, right? In the evenings at dinner. And ladies, quite frankly, if you don't have to wear any sort of sequence dresses or anything like that. If you can pretty much get away with a blouse and even dark jeans, to be quite frank. So again, not saying that you can't dress up. You have a lot of folks that they'll pick a couple evenings to really dress up, but it's not required, and it's certainly not the environment of a Viking sailing. So real quick, some of my most popular ocean itineraries: Australia and New Zealand. It's a 15-day experience. We go from Sydney to Auckland. I know that doesn't look like a very far cruise on the map, but I got to tell you, Sydney to Auckland is like flying from LA to New York. So there's quite a bit of distance there. This is jam-packed with value. It'd be very, very tough to put together an FIT experience and be able to see this much with as little effort as you'd be, producing here for yourselves if you took a cruise, as opposed to packing and unpacking and moving this many times from Sydney to South Australia, over to Tanzania, and then finally to both South and North New Zealand islands. So again, jam-packed with value. One of my most popular 15-day cruises with ocean. My most popular 2-week cruise with ocean is the British Isles Explorer. Can't say enough about the itinerary. Again, another one of those jam-packed with value. We go from London to Bergen, and we cruise throughout, again, the southern part of England. Comprehensive look there, into Ireland, and then up and around the great country of Scotland, and then over to the Shetland Islands, and then over to Bergen, where we start and end. But we can also continue on with a train experience that many do over to Oslo. So keep that in mind as a post extension in Oslo, or even more time before in London. Again, my most popular 2-week experience, jam-packed with value, and I think it gives you quite a bit of a comprehensive look in this part of the world. And then one of my favorites, for those of you that maybe have done quite a bit of Mediterranean cruising, or maybe you've been in the region quite a bit in a hotel, land, motor coach experience, this is Venice to Barcelona, or Barcelona to Venice. We go in either direction. The highlight, or some of the big highlights, of course, is sailing on the Adriatic, which remains extremely popular. That great Croatian coastline. So you're able to start in Venice, sail into a couple different ports of call with Croatia. So and then of course Dubrovnik, into Corfu there in Greece, and then sail through the Ionian Sea and the Messina Strait, and then pick up all your staples like, Naples there, go into Pompeii out of Naples, even time in Rome and Florence there in Pisa, and then into the French Riviera with Monaco, Marseille, and then of course ending or starting in Barcelona. It is a 13-day experience. Make no mistake, we sail everything from Istanbul in Turkey all the way up around through, all the way up to Reykjavik in Iceland. So, but we can do, there's combinations, right? There's Istanbul to Venice, there's Istanbul to Athens, Athens to Venice, Venice to Rome. So again, shortest itineraries we offer is 8 days, 7 nights, and then as long as almost a month to go from Istanbul to Reykjavik. So keep that in mind. I won't try to play the video because although I have Google Fiber, I don't know, videos are always choppy. So I'll send those to you, Malinda, if you certainly want to feature them later. But as I wrap up here, I wanted to touch on the Viking Arctanus and Polaris. These are our expedition vessels. The maximum capacity of these vessels are just under 380 guests. And what we do with these vessels is we sail in the Arctic, we sail down south in Central and South America, and then we also call on the peninsula of Antarctica. So keep this in mind, right? We do quite a bit in places like the Arctic and as far as South America and calling on the peninsula of Antarctica, but we also use these same vessels to sail on the Great Lakes. So we go from Toronto to Milwaukee. Last year, as you see here, the Arctic was extremely popular, especially with Greenland coming online. I think Iceland and Greenland remain extremely popular, both for their own reasons. The Canada and the Northwest Passage was probably one of our most popular longer itineraries. Again, this is the whole kind of itinerary. It's 27 days, maybe out of the realm for some that are maybe still working, still have a boss outside the home. I get it, but I wanted to show it to you just to give you an idea, really to show you the complex nature of how much we're doing in the Arctic. And here you go. Here's what the map looks like. We do these itineraries in segments, but this is kind of the whole enchilada there, right? So you have the 27-day itinerary. As you mentioned, we end in Toronto. We end and start in Toronto. We go Toronto to Nuuk, and then we come back. So, and then we start our Great Lakes season when we go from Toronto to Milwaukee. So these are Polar Class 6 ships built to handle some of the roughest waters in the world, like the Arctic and down south on the peninsula, but also the finesse to be able to get through the Welland Canal, get through Newfoundland, get through the St. Lawrence River, and to be able to go and call on all 5 Great Lakes. Canadian Discovery, probably my most popular 2-week experience, where we go from New York to Toronto. So again, up and around Nova Scotia, into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and then built in the way to kind of navigate the St. Lawrence River all the way down into Lake Ontario, into Toronto. And believe it or not, this is my most popular expedition sailing to date. It's your Toronto to Milwaukee itinerary. Calling on Toronto, onto Lake Ontario, through the Welland Canal, right by the Niagara Falls, onto Lake Erie, going into Point Pelee, calling on Detroit. We have a phenomenal relationship there with the Ford Museum. And then we go up and around the great state of Michigan there, the Glove, Alpena. If you have not been to Mackinac Island, it should be on your top 5 cities to visit in the U.S. Traverse City, and then into Milwaukee. And then this year, for the first year ever, we're calling on the city of Chicago. We're not embarking or disembarking there, but we are including it in the itinerary. So we have about 62 different itineraries that either start or end in North America. So whether it's an expedition cruise on the Great Lakes, whether it's sailing on the Mississippi from St. Paul to New Orleans in Louisiana, we do both upper and lower Mississippi accommodations based on the time of year, right? We do 8-day, 7-night, and then 2-week experiences on the Mississippi. That's a river cruise experience here in the U.S. And then we have about 30 some ocean itineraries that start or end in North America. I only mention that based on there being quite a bit of popularity with staying closer to home and folks wanting to experience more of what's in our local backyard. So we should not be ruled out, right? We do quite a bit of cruising on the West Coast, specifically Alaska, and we go all the way through the canal, right? From Fort Lauderdale to LA. So keep all of that in mind. Show you a couple more itineraries, but what I wanted to mention is, of course, with expedition, it's like an ongoing science project the entire time, right? So what we found out very early on is that with our research with expedition sailings and expedition cruising, half the ship doesn't want to be there. So, and I say that wholeheartedly, they're only there because he or she's making them go on this expedition sailing. They have no interest in wildlife, weather, having ice time on the peninsula of Antarctica. They don't want anything to do with that, right? Half the ship typically, right? Statistically speaking, meaning we have made the ship very comfortable in the eyes of what Viking does worldwide. We've made it so that it's also very interesting to be able to interact with your resident experts in the several fields of their study. You have your scientists on board that are conducting actual scientific research about the weather, wildlife, and all of those findings are kind of put together in the learning in the lab, right? And really shared with the ship. And you can participate as much as you like and never participate ever if you don't want to. The aula, right? The what we use is the theater to deliver our lecture series. Very informative, lots of topics. The nice thing is that that's in a larger format. You can also speak to these experts and scientists in a smaller forum, smaller groups. We launch a weather balloon on every single sailing. So there's a tremendous amount of toys for the other half that actually did want to be on this expedition sailing. You have your kayaks, you have your submersibles, you have your military grade Zodiacs. And then for those that maybe did not want to go on this expedition sailing, but now have talked themselves into getting off the ship and maybe enjoying some ice time, or maybe not enjoying ice time, but they want to maybe at least see something. We have our ribs as well, where you just step right into them. And the nice thing is about, when you have some free time, have Malinda show you what the hangar looks like. As I don't want this presentation to go on and on and on, but take a look at the hangar. Our folks are sheltered from any elements when they do kind of try to participate or want to participate in that. When we deploy, whether it's the Zodiacs or the kayaks or the ribs, they're doing that in an enclosed environment as opposed to, having to navigate a slip on their own or anything like that. So again, I would encourage you to take a great look at Expedition, even for those that maybe have never wanted to call on the peninsula of Antarctica. We have some wonderful, wonderful itineraries. Again, I say this